So there's a need to complete that much used metaphor of the bread with another question. But the first question was, what is it in us that is representative of the sugar that homogenizes the flour, the yeast, and the water to make the dough? Or what is it in us that takes our stories, our experiences of life, which are all stories, and turn them into wisdom, the dough? So to continue with that metaphor, we would have to go to the next phase of recognition that the dough needs to be kneaded. But we don't need any stories that define this phase for any of us, because we all know what it's like to be beaten down, brought to our knees, humbled in many, many ways. So that takes us straight to the phase where the dough becomes the bread. And for that we need fire. So the question that completes our metaphor is, what is the fire in us that turns the dough into the bread that can nourish not only ourselves but all of life? And to that end, there's a reminder of a Sufi story. Is the story of that rich merchant called Abdul Malik. Now, Abdul Malik was known as the generous man of Corazon because he gave largesse to all that he found who were in need. But one day, Abdul Malik realized that the pleasure, the gratification that he received from giving was far greater than the weight of what he was giving. So he decided there and then that he was going to give everything that he had. And he did. He gave away all his money, all his belongings. He became penurious, penniless. He had nothing. And he wondered quietly what was to become of him now. But the very next day, when he was sitting down in the hour of his meditation, out of the floor in front of him rose a spectre, a man dressed in the patchwork robe of a dervish. And this spectre said to Abdul Malik, "I am your real self that has been able to manifest because of your final sacrifice. Now, if you beat me, I will turn into gold." And indeed, this is what happened. But a few days later, one of Abdul Malik's friends came to visit him. During that time, when the spectre emerged, and he watched this scene of gold being made by beating the dervish. So he went away and thought to himself, well, I always knew these dervishes were very special people, and if it takes beating them to turn them into gold, then that's what I can do too. So he arranged a big dinner, and he invited every dervish that he knew. And after they'd had their great feast of all the delicacies, Abdul Malik's friend took an iron bar and started to beat them. And there they were, lying bloodied on the floor, battered and beaten, until a few of them that managed to escape grabbed him and took him to the magistrates. And of course, he had to justify what he'd done, so he explained what he'd seen with Abdul Malik, that if you beat dervishes, they turned into gold. So, of course, Abdul Malik himself had to be called to give evidence before the magistrate, and on his way to the court, his real self told him what to say. So when he was in front of the magistrate, Abdul Malik said, well, yes, I do know this man, but what it is that he explains that he saw was totally wrong. It was merely his own perception of what it was that occurred. So, of course, the magistrate judged that Abdul Malik's friend had gone into some kind of insanity, and they put him into the lunatic asylum until he came to his senses. And as for the dervishes, well, of course, in the way of dervishes, they were miraculously healed, because dervishes do have magic, as we well know. But as for Abdul Malik, every day for the rest of his life, he beat his real self, which produced the gold, which was also his real self, which he gave out as largesse to all of those who could only receive what he could give in a material sense. Our question is, what is it that we have that is the fire that makes the bread that can nourish ourselves and all of life? And what does this story tell us about this fire?
Like he accepted his real self.
Right.
So, in accepting it and doing what, like, taking the responsibility of being who he was, really, then everything, that's like the gold.
Right. But what is this beating? I can only give you my own experience. And every night of my life, when I lay down, there are tears that flow down on my pillow. And then on my lips is always, and perhaps will ever will be, is thy will and thine alone can be done. Well, we know there's no thing or God out there, but these words to me are like beating the image. What is it in your life that is representative of this story? What is it that keeps us humble, that we could never claim anything for ourselves? Never say, I did that. What is it that represents beating this image of self? Image of self.
So surrendering and letting go of that, of ourselves, our full selves.
Exactly.
Renunciation and letting go and surrendering.
So what has this got to do with the fire? What remains when we get rid of the face, the limited self? Haven't you found that whatever words you need or action that you need to take is there in the moment? When you're out of the way? When there's nothing to react, say, oh, how could you do that to me? Here's another punch. Isn't it?
Releasing your ego.
Releasing your ego.
Accepting humility.
Accepting the nothingness, the humility. What is it for you? What is the stick that you use?
Awareness in the mind, every moment.
All right. Yes. Awareness. Present. The effort to stay. Always.
Pick it up all the time.
Yep. Isn't it? Snap back. Snap back. Consciousness. Awareness. Presence. What's the stick that you use? My stick is this every night saying, thy will, thy will, thy will, thy will. When there's no thy. But it does. It's the same as using the stick, isn't it?
Yes.
So it brings about that awareness. But what is our stick and what is this gold? We know it's whatever comes out of the mouth, whatever touch, action you take is that gold. Because it has no expectations, it has no judgment. But what is it? Our stick and our gold. Let's finish the metaphor. We are the bread. We are the bread.